Good day, grade 12 learners. Welcome to today's economics lesson. My name is Mr. Perry. This lesson is brought to you by the Northern Cape Department of Education in collaboration with Pagama Research and Development. Good day again, grade 12 learners. Today, our knowledge area will be based on macroeconomics and our contemporary economic issues as we prepare for our prelim examination paper 2. By the end of the lesson, learners should know how the structure of the paper is and also how to respond to different question verbs. It is important for us to understand the command word in our question so that we know what we are answering. So the moment you understand what you are asked, it is easy for you to structure your answers according to what is required from the question. Our paper 2, we have 2 big chapters, your macroeconomics and the economic issues. From the macroeconomics, we have 3 units: perfect competition, imperfect competition, and the market failure. From your contemporary economic issues, you'll find inflation, tourism, and environmental sustainability. So all the 6 units will be part of your paper 2. Question 1, it is compulsory that you know both macro and economic issues, because it's 30 marks, it's divided into 15 marks is for macroeconomics and the other 15 marks is for your contemporary economic issues. And then for section B, question 2, it is only macroeconomics. Then question 3, it is only contemporary economic issues. Then question 4, it is a combination of both chapters, your macro and economic issues. That will take 20. Then out of those 3 questions, you are only going to be answering 2 of them out of 80, because each question, it carries 40 marks. Then when you go to section C, question 5, it will be macroeconomics. So question 5, the essay will come from this macroeconomics, and question 6, the essay will come from the contemporary economic issues. Our paper will be out of 150 for 2 hours. You have 6 questions divided in 3 sections. You are answering all 3 sections. However, you are only answering for question 1, and then section B, 2 questions, then section C, 1 question. That will make 4 questions out of 150. Question 1, it is compulsory for you to answer question 1. So you have 1.1, which is your multiple choice for 16 marks. The first 4 questions will be based on macroeconomics. The last 4 questions will be based on economic issues. And then we have 1.2, which is matching columns out of 8 marks. So the first 4 questions will be macro again. The last 4 will be your economic issues. And then we have 1.3, it is 6 marks. It is also divided into 3 for macro and 3 for economic issue. So the first 3 will be based on macroeconomics and the last 3 will be based on your economic issues. And then section B, we've mentioned that we are only answering 2 questions. Either you answer 2 and 4 or 3 and 4 or 2 and 3. Remember, when you answer your section B, you need to look at your 8-mark questions. Don't only get excited because you can answer your 2.1.1, 3.1.1 or 4.1.1. Read through your question during the reading time. Read through the questions and try to structure your answers where you can score more marks. That is the question that you are going to choose in section B. For section C, come ready for the essay. You must know all your essay in question 5. If you are planning to write question 5, you must know all the essays that are in macroeconomics. And then if you are planning to write question 6, you must know all the essays in economic issues. You cannot guess which essay is going to come. You need to plan all of them. And also grade 12, by doing today's revision does not mean we are covering everything that will be in the examination. You need to use your examination guideline and use more of your previous question paper to prepare for your paper 2. We are going to look at section A and B. We'll start with section A, 1.3. So we are going to do this together. We have 1.3.1. So you're going to read the sentence and then you give it the right terminology. An institution whose main function is to review orders made by the competition tribunal and amend or confirm these orders. So we have 3 institutions on our competition policies. This is part of your perfect market in the examination guideline. We have competition policies. So your competition policy, it has 3 institutions, which is your competition commission, your competition tribunal, and competition appeal court. Your competition commission, they investigate any business practices that are restrictive or measures, they regulate measures and takeovers, right? And then your tribunal will make judgment from the information that they get from your appeal court. And then after they've made orders, what institution review those orders? That will be your competition appeal court. A market strategy that firms use to create a certain perception in the minds of consumers. So for us to see the difference between product, they will do what? They will brand the product. The process of comparing social cost and social benefit of a project. That is when we are doing our cost-benefit analysis. Cost-benefit analysis, we compare our social cost and our social benefit. And then if the social costs are more than the social benefit, we cannot continue that project. Where the social benefit exceeds the social cost, then we can continue with the project. This can also be done in calculation, where you take what? Your CBR, your cost-benefit ratio, is cost to the present value of economic benefit into the present value of economic cost. If the answer it is more than 1, you can continue the project, but if it's less than 1, then you need to stop the project, right? So when it comes to your cost benefit analysis, you need to understand the reason we are doing it, so that we are able to make more informed decision, so that we can look at other alternatives if we can't take on that project, right? So that we can ensure that the social benefit always exceed the social cost. The reason we are doing your CBA cost benefit analysis is because some cost and some benefit may be external, your external cost and external benefit. So we need to take that into consideration when we do project. So mostly this is done by the government when they are doing project where they feel like the social cost and social benefit will have too much gap. So they need to conduct a cost benefit analysis. 1.3.4. Low growth, high unemployment, and high inflation. So 3 things are happening here. So we have types of inflation. We have types of inflation: consumer inflation, where you find your core inflation, administered price inflation, headline inflation. Then you have your producer inflation, where we discuss our producer price indexes, consumer price indexes. Then you have your hyperinflation, you have stagflation, right? So those are the types of inflation that we have. So you need to know all types of inflation, including all-inclusive inflation. So this one is a type of inflation, but this one, it includes low growth, high unemployment, and high inflation, which is a stagflation. A cultural or natural site that has a special cultural or physical importance, right? So those are our heritage sites. Can be a World Heritage Site. It's a cultural and natural site that has a special cultural or physical importance. It will be our heritage sites. The direct regulation of industry or activity through laws that state what is allowed and what is illegal, right? So this we find it under our government intervention when it comes to sustainable environment, which is a command and control, right? So we have other government intervention like granting of property rights, paying of environmental dues, levying environmental taxes, marketable permits, and then there is command and control. Command and control is the direct regulation. Right, so let's look at our answers. An institution whose main function is to review orders from the competition tribunal. It is a competition appeal court. A market strategy that firms use to create different perception about a product, that is branding. Right, and then let's look at 1.1.3. Our answer will be cost benefit analysis, the process of comparing social cost and social benefit. That is your cost benefit analysis. Low growth, high unemployment, high inflation, it is a stagflation. A cultural or natural site that has special cultural or physical importance, that will be your World Heritage Sites. The direct regulation of industry through laws that state that what is allowed or illegal, that will be your command and control. Right, grade 12, now we move to section B. Section B, 2.1.2. So today, grade 12, we'll be looking at question where we say it's middle order or higher order questions. So we'll be looking at your 2.1.2, and then when you go to our data response question, we'll be looking at the last two questions of our data response question. And then when you go to our 8 marks, we'll be looking at your 2.5, 3.5, and 4.5, which are the higher order question that requires you to think and to write from your opinion, or to think critically, to evaluate information. Right, so we're focusing on our middle order and higher order question. 2.1.2, why is monopolistic competition considered a hybrid market structure? Why do we consider it a hybrid market structure? It means it combines two things. What does it combine? It combines two market structures, which is it combines the monopoly and the perfect market. So monopolistic, it has the characteristics of a monopoly, and it also has the characteristics of a perfect market. We can list a few where you find that monopolistic and a perfect market, monopolistic and a perfect market, and monopolistic and monopoly matches. A monopolistic market structure, there are many sellers. In a perfect market, there are many sellers as well. A monopolistic competition makes a normal profit in a long run. A perfect competitor, it makes a normal profit in a long run. But so if you are discussing this for 8 marks, you'll discuss many sellers, you'll discuss normal profit. Then you go to monopoly. A monopolistic demand curve, it is downward sloping, same as monopoly. They are downward sloping. Right. A monopolistic competitor and a monopoly are price makers. They are both price makers. So these are an example of why do we say a monopolistic is a hybrid structure, because it carries the characteristics of a monopoly and it carries the characteristics of a perfect market. You can even think of more characteristics that are matching more than what we have here. So the reason we say monopolistic competition is a hybrid structure is because it combines elements of both perfect competition and monopoly. So we do have the elements of both perfect competition and monopoly. That's why we say it is a hybrid market structure. Right, let's move to 2.2, our data response question. So I'll give you about 4 minutes to answer to these questions. Let's go through them. 2.2.4, why would a firm incur cost even when the output is 0? Here at output 0, we still have a cost. Why? Number 2.2.5, use the graph to explain how break-even point 0 point is achieved in this graph. Where are we achieving break-even point or normal profit? You have 4 minutes. For 2.2.4, it is 4 marks. And then for 2.2.2, it is 2 marks. So it means one sentence. And then here you need to come up with 2 sentences. Each of them will be 2 marks. Your time will begin now. Right, grade 12, our 4 minutes is done. Let's look at our marking guideline. Why would a firm still have cost even when output is at 0? So here output is 0, but the cost is here. This is our total cost. We still have cost. Look at revenue is start at 0, but cost is start up there, even though the output is 0. Right, our answer will be, even though the output is 0, the business will still have fixed cost. The firm under perfect competition will have cost even when output is 0 due to fixed costs such as rent, salaries, which must be paid irregardless of production level. So because of the fixed cost that is there, we will still have to have certain costs because of our fixed cost. Even though there's 0 production, there will be cost because of our fixed cost. Use the graph to explain the break-even point. Right. So when you look at this graph, whenever TC is above TR, we'll say they are making a loss. And whenever TR is above the TC, we'll say we are making a profit. Right? And then here we are making a loss again because the TC is above. And then when the TC is below, we make a profit. This is the same thing that we do when we do our individual graph. When the AC is below AR, it's a profit. But where the AC is above AR, it's a loss. Same thing is happening here. But where are we achieving 0 profit? Right. So look at this. TC and TR are equals to each other. Even at point B, TC and TR are equals to each other. In the graph, the break-even point is where total revenue intersect with the total cost. At 15 here and at 45, you find that the TC is equals to TR. At the point A, the firm has no profit or loss because the total revenue equals to the total cost, meaning the firm is covering all its costs but not making any profit. Beyond A up to B, the firm begins to make a profit, where you find there's a distance between TC. TC is below and TR is above. And then the firm will again break even at point B at 45. So our break even is here at point B, 45. TR is equals to TC. At point A, TR is equals to TC. But here between A and B, there is profit. Between A and B, there is profit. And then above this, there is a loss. And below 15, there is a loss. Right, let's look at 2.3. 2.3.4. Why do firms in an oligopoly choose not to compete primarily on price? Why do businesses on oligopoly don't compete on prices? Right. So why do you think they don't use price? Businesses on oligopoly, why can't they use price? There's few sellers there. Why can't they use price? They want to avoid price war. Because if they are using price, one will decrease their prices and then the next will decrease their price. They are not going to benefit anything from that. To avoid price war, which can erode profits for all the businesses involved. So they want to avoid price war because price war will only reduce their profit, because if they are using price to compete, it means that they have to decrease prices. But instead of using price, they are using other non-price competition factors, such as advertising, branding of their product, opening until late, door-to-door delivery. So those are other factors that they can use instead of using price as a competition factor. How can the government promote fair competition among businesses? How can the government ensure that there's fair competition? Remember, we are having our competition policies and competition act that want to try to promote fair competition. How can the government do that? So for 4 marks, you have 2 minutes. Then we look at our marking guideline. Right, grade 12. Let's look at our responses. The question was, how can the government promote fair competition among businesses? Remember, for fair competition, it means that there will be more supply. More supply, it means that prices will drop and consumers are going to benefit because now there will be more choices. The government can encourage fair competition by implementing and enforcing laws that prevent monopolies and anti-competitive practices. It can regulate pricing to avoid unfair practices like price fixing. Providing support for small businesses helps to create a leveled play field where small businesses can also come in and compete with the large businesses that already exist. They can do this by doing what? By ensuring that those businesses are not abusing their economic power and they allow small businesses to come in and contribute as well. 2.5, how can an exit of firms in a perfect market affect the economy? So if there are businesses leaving the market in a perfect market, how would that affect the economy? And taking into consideration that in a perfect market, there's free entry and exit. So when businesses are leaving the market, what will happen to the economy? Businesses, it means that they are no longer selling. They are no longer producing. So what will happen to the economy? Right. So you have 4 sentences. Each will be 2 marks, and then that will be 8 marks. Right. Grade 12, you are given 5 minutes to respond to the question. Then we look at our marking guideline. Right, grade 12, our time is up. Let's look at our marking guideline. The question was, how can an exit of firms in a perfect market affect the economy? If businesses are leaving, what will happen to the economy? The exit of firms reduce overall supply. Supply will decrease, which lead to price increasing, which can lead to what? Price increasing because demand remained the same. So when there's an increase in supply, let's put in the graph D, and then there's a supply. If the supply decreases to S1 and then demand remain the same, it means that price will go up to P1. So it reduces supply, which can lead to increase in price because demand remained the same. Consumer may face fewer choices. Now there's less people producing. We are having fewer choices and then potentially leading to higher cost for goods and services. As prices rise, remaining businesses will benefit because they will have more profit. So as much as consumers are not benefiting from this because now there's less supply, less choices, and higher prices, producers who are left in the market will gain profit. So if they were making economic loss in a short run and then others are leaving the market, those who are remaining will enjoy normal profit. However, the exit of firms can lead to job losses, negatively impacting household income and consumption. As they are shutting down, then people will lose their jobs, which will affect income. It will reduce income and consumption. If a large number of businesses exit, it may reduce overall economic efficiency as the market no longer be operating at optimal production levels. So it may result in markets being inefficient because there's less number operating. Over time, higher prices and reduced competition could also impact on innovation and economic growth. If there's no a lot of business coming in and competing, that can make business less innovative, and it can also decrease our economic growth. Right, so grade 12, any 4 answers that is relevant, you may mark yourself correct. We are moving to question 3. 3.1.2, why is preservation of environment important? We are not asking what is preservation. To preserve is to keep resources that are non-renewable intact. But why is it important for us to preserve? Why is preservation of the environment important? Right, grade 12, 2 minutes, and then we look at our marking guideline. Okay, grade 12, let's look at your responses. Why is preservation of the environment important? It is important to keep our natural resources intact for future generation. It prevents the extinction of fauna and flora. So we don't want to lose out on our species for good. So that's why we want to protect our environment, our natural resources, so that the future generation can also benefit from the same natural resources that we are benefiting from. 3.2, explain the purpose of levying taxes on tourists. How can households in the rural areas benefit from tourism? So we are going to explain the purpose of taxing. Why do we tax tourists? And then how can households in the rural areas benefit from tourism? So how can the household based in the rural areas benefit from tourism? And that is 4 marks, and this one's 2 marks. You are given 4 minutes to complete the task. Then we look at our marking guideline. All right, grade 12, let's look at our marking guidelines. What is the purpose of levying taxes on tourists? Why do we make tourists pay taxes? Right, similar reason why we pay taxes. We pay taxes so that we can have infrastructure, so that government can provide public goods and services, your free education, free health care, right? So same, tourists need to pay tax because we are hosting them. So they need proper infrastructure. So they need to also give an income. Levying taxes on tourists helps generate revenue for the government to maintain and improve infrastructure, public services, and tourism-related facilities. It also helps offset the environment and social costs associated with increased tourist activity, ensuring sustainable tourism development. So with the same tax money that we are collecting, we provide infrastructure and public services. And also we are able to now compensate for what the externalities that are created when we are attracting tourism. Okay, and then we have 3.2.5. How can households in the rural areas benefit from tourism? So we say some of our tourism attractions are based in the rural areas. So it means if they're based in the rural areas, there must be infrastructure. So the same infrastructure that is built for tourism, it will benefit the household around that area. So those households around that area, they will also benefit from jobs that they will get from that infrastructure development or tourism attraction, and they can also become self-employed. Tourism can create new income sources through guest house accommodation and local crafts. Households can earn income through employment. Infrastructure that is created will benefit both the tourists and the local people. Job opportunities are created in hotels and tourist attractions. Learnership for many skills is required by tourism industry, which is offered through, for example, your tour guides, travel agents, and chefs. They get skills because those skills are needed on the tourism industry. Right, so any 2 full sentences, you'll be correct and you get 4 marks. 3.3, 3.3.4, explain the granting of property rights. This is one of government intervention, ensuring what this is a sustainable development. So explain the granting of property rights as a measure to prevent fauna and flora species from becoming extinct. How can we use granting property rights to ensure that our species are not dying out completely? Number 3.3.5, how can producers contribute to environmental sustainability? So we know that markets sometimes fail, which is producers and consumers, to take care of the environment due to what? Lack of information, lack of knowledge, carelessness, self-interest, because we don't care about the externalities that we produce. So that's why we find that producers and consumers are failing to take care of the environment. But the question now, how can producers contribute to environmental sustainability? What can they do to ensure that the environment is taken care of? Right, Grave Talk, we have 5 minutes to complete the activity. Then we look at our marking guideline. Your time will begin now. Right, let's look at our marking guideline. Explain the granting of property rights as a measure to prevent fauna and flora species from becoming extinct. So granting property rights, it means you take care of what belongs to you. Government gives you an opportunity to take care of an environmental or natural place where you look after the species or plants that are there. It ensures that people care for things that belong to them. So it is known that we care more about things that belong to us. The people who get the property rights will protect the fauna and flora species from dying out completely. Granting of property rights has a little cost to the taxpayers. So government doesn't have to become government's burden or the taxpayers' burden to take care of those species, because the person that is granted property rights will be taking care of those species at no cost to the taxpayers. Granting property rights can help protect endangered species by giving landowners incentives to conserve those natural places. So they are able to protect our endangered species because they are given incentives in order to protect our natural places. Right. So granting of property rights can be successful to protect our endangered species, our flora and fauna species. 3.3.5, how can producers contribute to environmental sustainability? Producers can contribute to environmental sustainability by using resources more efficiently and reducing waste that they create. They can adopt eco-friendly practices such as recycling using renewable energy. Implementing sustainable farming or manufacturing techniques also help minimize environmental impact. So producers can come up with better ways to produce, which is more environmental friendly, reduce waste, and use renewable energies that will protect the environment from deteriorating. This question can change and ask about consumers. How can consumers contribute to environmental sustainability? Right. So what is it that you can do to ensure that our environment is taken care of? Stop littering, practice recycling. Right. So those are the things that we can do as consumers to ensure that if we have the knowledge that our environment is always taken care, reduce waste. Right. And stop dumping where it's illegal. Right. That will protect our environment. Why does the individual, we are moving to question 4, why does the individual firm under perfect competition have perfectly or horizontal demand cap? Why are we having this demand cap in a perfect market? Right, we have 2 minutes to respond to that. Why is the perfect market having a horizontal cap, whereas we find a monopoly having a downward sloping cap? Why does a perfect competitor, this is a perfect competitor, why does a perfect competitor have a horizontal demand cap? We have 2 minutes, then we look at our marking guideline. grade 12, let's look at our marking guideline. Why does the individual firm under the perfect competitor have a horizontal or a perfectly elastic demand curve? It is because they are price taker. So whatever price that they charge here, they cannot change it because they get it from the market first. The market will determine price. So for the sake of this one, let's put here, our price will be here because what? They are price taker. Whatever price that was set in the market will be taken by the individual firm. So that's why their demand curve is always horizontal because they cannot change this price. Doesn't matter what quantity they sell. If it's 2 or 10, they will still use the same price. Right, let's move to our 4.2 data response. We have 2 questions. Let's look at what they need. Why is it important to identify a shutdown point? Right, so from this graph, where is the shutdown point? Where we cannot cover our AVC, so business will shut down where they cannot cover their AVC. Why is it important though to identify the shutdown point? And then 4.2.5, how can businesses adjust their production capacity in a long run? How can businesses adjust their production capacity in a long run? How can they increase or decrease their production capacity in a long run? That will be 4 marks. Right, grade 12, we have 5 minutes. Then we look at our marking guideline. Right, grade 12, our time is up. Let's look at our marking guideline. Why is it important to identify the shutdown point of a business? It helps a firm determine when to leave production to minimize losses. It tells us when to stop producing. Remember, at a shutdown point, you cannot produce any more because you cannot cover your average variable cost. If the firm's revenue cannot cover its variable cost, continue operating will lead to a greater financial loss than temporary shutting down. So if they cannot cover their average variable cost, they need to shut down and then come back later when they are able to now cover their variable cost. So temporarily, if they cannot cover their variable cost, they need to shut down. So we need to identify it so that we know when to leave production. How can business adjust their production capacity in a long run? How can we increase production capacity, for example, in a long run? Using new technology, hiring more people. How can we reduce production? Then we'll have to have less people, right? So how can business adjust their production capacity? We assume that for us to adjust our production capacities, that we need to increase it. So if we have to increase our production capacity, we need to invest in new equipment and technology, expanding or relocating their facility to accommodate changes in demand, increasing or decreasing their workforce based on production needs and market condition, optimizing production processes, and adapting new methods to improve efficiency. So we need to invest in new equipment and technology, relocate if we have to, and expand so that we can meet the demand. Increasing or decreasing of workforce, it will only depend on the market condition. What is it that is needed? 4.3, we have 4.3.4 and 4.3.5. 4.3.4, explain positive impact of environmental subsidies on the environment. Environmental subsidies is one of the measures taken by the government to ensure sustainable development. So explain the positive impact of that environmental subsidies on the environment. If government gives businesses subsidies of environment, how would that have a positive impact on the environment? Remember, subsidies are given to those who are producing but being environmental friendly, protecting our environment. Those who are destroying the environment will be charged tax. How does climate change impact agricultural productivity? How does climate change, the change in weather patterns, the unusual weather patterns, how will that affect our agricultural product, we need to think of times of floods or droughts, how that affect our natural productivity. Right, grade 12, we have 5 minutes, then we look at our marking guideline. Okay, our time is up. Let's look at our marking guideline. Explain the positive impact of environmental subsidies on environment when government subsidize those who are taking care of environment. Environmental subsidies encourage business to adapt to cleaner technologies and sustainable practices by lowering the cost of implementation. So if government provides subsidies for taking care of the environment, you'll become more encouraged to take care of the environment, and that will improve the environment. It will ensure that there is environmental sustainability. How does climate change impact agricultural productivity? Climate change reduces agricultural productivity by increasing droughts and floods. Let's say it reduces agricultural productivity when there's an increase in droughts or floods. So it means that those who are in the agricultural industry won't be producing more because of what? The unusual weather patterns. Extreme temperature can harm crops and lower yields. It also affects soil quality and water availability, meaning our agricultural productivity will decrease because the soil is not of a good quality because of whatever climate change, these droughts or there were heavy rains that removed the soil. So what we are left with does not have a strong quality to produce more. So our agricultural productivity will decrease if there is climate change. Right, grade 12, let's look at our 4.5. Analyze the challenges faced by tourism industry in South Africa. What are the challenges? Yes, we know the benefit of tourism, but what is the challenge that is faced by tourism industry in South Africa? So in tourism industry, you need to look at businesses that are more on tourism, your hotels, tourism attraction places. How are they? What are the challenges that are facing those tourism industry in South Africa? Right. So you have 5 minutes. You are answering for 8 marks. Then we look at our marking guideline. Right, grade 12. Let's look at our marking guideline. We were analyzing challenges faced by tourism industries in South Africa. So things that you need to mention is your crime, being one of the thing that may reduce number of people who are visiting South Africa, and looking at things like tourism it's a seasonal industry where sometimes people are not visiting because it's winter. So that are the things that affect the tourism industry. Not having enough infrastructure maybe could be a reason that people are not visiting. So those are the things that we need to look at as challenges, right? Political issues can make other people not to come visit our country. Frequent power outreach disrupt services in hotels. Our load shedding can distract activities and services in hotels, restaurants, and tourist attractions, affecting the visitors' experience. So if they are not happy, they cannot go and tell others to come visit. Safety and security concerns, particularly crime, can reduce tourists from visiting, can discourage our tourists from visiting. Inadequate infrastructures, right, including unreliable transport, it can reduce the smooth operation of this sector, which is tourism industry. So if we are not having proper infrastructure, it may result in people not wanting to come visit. The industry also deals with seasonal fluctuation, leading to inconsistency. Business for tourism operators can be during season of heavy rains, people are not coming, which will affect the tourism industry. So Those are what are the reasons that or the challenges that can be faced by tourism industry. You are not saying what are the challenges to tourists, but to the industries in South Africa. What challenges can they face? People not coming because they are scared of crime in South Africa, load shedding, affecting their services in hotels and restaurants, infrastructure not being proper. You may be located in a place where there are no proper roads for people to come to your tourist attraction. So that will be a disadvantage for you in the tourism industry. Right, grade 12 for our homework. This is what we're taking home. Discuss in detail without graphs the state intervention as a consequence of the market failure. So here your headings will be your direct control, minimum wage, maximum prices, minimum prices, taxes, subsidies, government intervention, imperfect distribution of wealth. However, even if you are discussing minimum wage, you don't have to draw the graph or maximum price or taxes without graphs. So you're only going to discuss those headings, right? The state intervention as a consequence to the market failure. You have a direct control where they are setting rules and regulation and putting limits on production, especially production where there is pollution. And then you have your minimum wage where there's a certain amount that all the employers, the lowest amount where all the employers must pay their employees. It may result in demand being low, but supply being high of labor, which result in unemployment. And then we have your minimum prices, which benefit producers, but then also result in surplus in market. And then we have your maximum prices, which benefit consumers, but also result in shortage in the market. You have taxes that reduce a supplier and prices will increase, more especially on things that bring negative externalities and then subsidies as well. So you're going to discuss that essay without graphs. And then for your additional part, you analyze the consequences of inefficiency in competitive market. If businesses are inefficient, how will that become a consequence in the competitive market, right? So that will be 10 marks. It means you need to write 5 full sentences. So for your question, you'll have 2 marks for introduction, 26 for your body, 10 marks for your additional part, and 2 marks for conclusion. That will be making your 40 marks. Right, so grade 12. So when you prepare for your paper 2, remember to cover microeconomics, all the topics. So the revision does not cover all the topics because it's a previous question paper. You need to use your examination guideline. Know that microeconomics, you need to master your perfect competition, imperfect competition, and the market failure. For your economic issues, you need to master inflation, tourism, and environmental sustainability, and use different type of question papers, previous question papers, so that you get familiar with answering the questions, and also you look at the marking guidelines on how you are expected to answer and how marks are awarded. On our next lesson, we will still be looking at our prelim and revision as we prepare for our paper 2 that will be written on the 30th of September. Thank you so much, grade 12, for joining in today's class. I'll see you next time. Keep well.